Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to follow up on some of the very good questions that Senator King asked, focusing on competition. And General Shelton, how would you describe the benefits of competition in terms of acquiring engines and the capabilities for launch?
Senator, I think there's no question that competition brings lower prices. It brings innovation, new ideas. What it can't substitute for yet is reliability. We have a proven performer here. In fact, two lines, Delta and Atlas, that are very proven performers. So the question we have to answer is, can we get to the place where we're as comfortable with a new entrant as we are with our current provider? That's why we have a very rigorous, detailed certification process that's engineering-based, has 19 different engineering review boards that we will work our way through. And that will have to be the substitute for numbers of launches. You know, 72 in a row is a pretty good track record.
When do you expect it is possible for all of these contracts to be competitively bid?
Our schedule right now says that starting in fiscal year 18, it will be full and open competition.
And between now and then, what is reasonable to expect?
Between now and then, we've got the 36 core buy with United Launch Alliance. We will have at least 7, maybe 8 launches available for competition. And there may be, who knows, some pop-up opportunities along the way as well. But we have a contractual agreement for 36 core buy with ULA right now.
And am I right in assuming that even with a competitive bid, it's entirely possible the current provider would win that bid?
Absolutely.
But that the benefits of competition, the taxpayers may get a far more favorable price through vigorous competition than they would with a no-bid contract?
Pencils will be sharpened. Yes, sir.
Well, I would encourage expediting efforts down that road. Mr. Estevez, you said a moment ago, if I heard you correctly, that what had been discussed here was a good rationale why we would go down the path towards development of a new engine. I want to understand that comment and reconcile it with the administration statement of administration policy on June 17th, where the administration objected to the House allocating funds to a new engine. And can you explain, in your judgment, what we should be doing towards developing a domestic engine so that we are not dependent upon Russian providers?
There's a number of different paths that we can take to develop a new engine. What we said for that $220 million, I believe it was, is it's preliminary to be putting that money into the budget, you know, within the trade space of the budget at this point, where we don't know the course that we're going to take to pursue development of a new engine. Now, we've just asked for some reprogramming to do some risk reduction, and there's probably, as Mr. Mitchell, General Mitchell alluded to earlier, some time that you need to do that risk reduction before we decide whether it's going to be a public-private partnership that develops it, we'll go to a commercial entity that will develop engines based on our risk reduction, or it's inside the government process to do that. So it's not that we don't want to go down the path in getting a new engine. It's the fact that the money was preliminary for where we are in that direction.
What is your best case estimate for design, construction, test, and certification of a new engine, both in terms of cost and time?
Again, that will depend on the course that we select on getting to a new engine.
But give me best case.
8 years.
8 years. So we talked earlier that if Russia cuts off these exports tomorrow, we don't have 8 years worth of engines sitting in the warehouse. Is that right?
That's correct.
So if the ramp up to develop a new engine is substantially longer than our capacity to survive not having these imports, it would seem there's some considerable exigency to starting that process now and not getting caught flat-footed if the worst comes to pass.
Of course, if that happened, if we were cut off, we would use the stock that we have and we'd allocate those in an interagency process. We would ramp up production of Delta, which can launch our manifest. It would, as General Shelton said earlier, it would cause some significant delay and put some risk into our constellations, but we would do that. Commercial providers that we're pushing to for our competitive environment will come on board. They'll be able to launch some of the manifest. So there are mitigations. Now that those things will cost us money, and they'll, as I said, put some risk into the time we get some of those constellations up. In the meantime, I would say throwing money at a problem that we don't know where we're going is not a good idea either at this point. So it's not just a matter of rushing money into development of a new engine. We want to do that in a considered manner so we get the engine that we need.
Although if you said it's 8 years, the longer we delay the beginning of that 8 years, the further out the end of that 8 years are. Dr. Kim, do you have any thoughts on this question? I would welcome your thoughts as well. Can you turn your microphone on, please?
Sorry. So our study did not do an independent schedule estimate assessment, so we can't comment on that.
Thank you very much.